So once again, thank you all for joining us today, Social Equity LA, for our How to Start Your Cannabis series. We have a focus today for the Social Equity Program. As most of you guys know, that we're really in the thick of things with the Social Equity Program. It's been a long journey, and some of our brothers and sisters have obtained their licenses, and we commend them for that, but a lot of us are still in the pipeline and struggle, or are not even aware of what is going on. So we're going to try to make it short, sweet, and simple, give you guys some policy updates about the new policies, the processes, the procedures to apply. Two is how and where the current state of the Social Equity Program is, as far as how you can apply or what types of licenses are available. And then third, just reiterating some of those different activities that you guys can do, some that are new, some that you guys are already aware of as social equity applicants that are exclusively for those of you guys that are already pre-vetted as social equity applicants and or will become social equity applicants in the future. As well as, which is the most important part really, and be the meat of this conversation, would be sharing some real life examples and talking to some operators and social equity applicants that are licensees going through the process, and as well as some operators give you some tips. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get things going. So let me pull up something. So I guess raise the hands. How many of you guys are familiar with the new portal that just opened, or licensing opportunities that just opened with DCR October 1st? Yes, no, some of you guys. Okay, so October 1st, the city opened up once again the window for licensing. What you see on the screen is from DCR. It's a website, so feel free to go there directly. However, what we have is delivery, micro business delivery only, meaning you can't apply for the other activities under that micro business, but you can apply for that delivery. And that's both limited. Delivery is only limited to social equity applicants. Also, nursery is something new that just came out for social equity applicants there. Allows you to grow immature plants and babies and clones and other activities. You can look at further. I'm not a licensing expert in that, but ultimately the quick update is that these are available. Those of you guys that are social equity applicants already vetted through the system are able to apply. And those of you guys who are general public, anything that is not limited to social equity applicant is available now, including cultivation only processor, which is more so for packaging and those purposes, not so much growing. Once again, you can look further into that on the BCC or DCR website. The other thing is the commission meeting, the second update, and this kind of where I would like to bring in a few guests. We have a few of our guests today that we want to invite to speak on some of the next topics. So we do have the Social Equity Workers Association here with us today. Alfred, as well as I believe Kika, and I see Madison on the line. So we would love for them to maybe work on the next section, which is discussing some of the updates that have been going on regarding the DCR, the commission meeting, and what I'm going to call the battle between the city and the DCR. And we're kind of unfortunately caught in the middle as applicants and equity individuals. But if you guys won't mind, can I ask to unmute you, Alfred and or Madison, so you guys can go ahead and speak?
Absolutely. Thank you, Luis. And good afternoon to everybody. It's an honor to be here with y'all. You know, we on this social equity ride, and the water's been turbulent, as we can all attest to. And so this prompted this motion that we see that was drafted by Council Office 8 and 9, right? Marquise and Curran Price. And so that was really after a slew of complaints that the council office received, DCR received on the processing time. You know, we know that, you know, DCR has introduced some new things now, like the business and licensing compliance training and the Spark sessions and the new website and some of the other processes that they're putting in place. They just overhauled the website and put in new processes around the licensing portal. And that's when the new October 1st licensing period started. So all of these things were decided back in July when they created this big overhaul of the program, and still there were things that were really unanswered. So when the motion came out, it had a couple good things in there for social equity, you know, and it was something in there for everybody. But however, DCR responds to that later in the month. The motion came out on the 29th of September, and DCR responded back a month later, almost to the date, and had 9 recommendations in there that were really intense and really kind of crafted. It took what the motion wanted to do and kind of really looked at it with a fine tooth, and I think it took it over the line. And so we're at a point right now where the council office and DCR are trying to figure out how to move this thing forward. DCR is really accountable for this. We know that they've had some issues over the past, and we need to make sure that there is oversight and there are the processes in the ordinance and how it actually functions from a labor perspective, has the resources and can actually happen. And so this thing affects all equity applicants. It affects all the licenses, you know, because really we're in a time frame where if we don't do something right now, the clock is ticking on us, and we want to get as many of these licenses across the line because there's another round that's coming. So whatever happens with this 120 or 130 that's here now, you know, and beyond, there's another 150 coming. And so that's considerable tax revenue. And, you know, I know Madison's here. Kika's actually not going to be here, but Madison, I'd love for you to chime in and expound on that anymore.
Sure. Yeah, so to add a little more context to what's in the motion, initially when it was released, the rescinding the December 31st deadline for relocating was the main thing that caught our attention. We were initially very supportive of the motion because it was forcing DCR to rescind that deadline, which for a lot of applicants had people scrambling to try to figure out where they were going to be location-wise and find, you know, partners, you know, because they thought that your application could be abandoned if you didn't meet that deadline. And that put a lot of pressure on people. So the motion initially rescinded that deadline along with another deadline, but it also had requirements for the DCR to respond to all kind of modification requests within 14 days. And when we look closer at those demands on the DCR, you know, obviously the purpose is to make sure that they have to process applications in a timely manner. But the way that it was written actually would have allowed people to make modifications, and the DCR would essentially automatically have to approve them, whether they were complete or not, whether they were compliant or not. And we saw that as a problem that could create a lot of unintended consequences. So Cat Packer responded to the motion with a very thorough assessment of what all of the measures in the motion would do, and made recommendations on how to correct some of the unintended consequences, as well as some recommendations that go above and beyond what the motion had recommended. And these are recommendations that they came up with in consultation with community groups and social equity applicants. And I know we were part of that process. And there's some pretty significant recommendations in there. For example, being able to move into different community plans is one of the recommendations. Another recommendation is creating a reapplication process so that you could start a brand new application within a year of your application being considered abandoned. There's several others. There's 9 in total. And so they weren't in the motion, and they were things that city council would have to vote on to pass. So the DCR also rescinded the December 31st deadline on their own because they had the authority to do it. But these other recommendations, they need the city council for. So that's just some of the stuff that's in it.
Yeah.
Wes, do you want to talk about some of that's in it as well?
Who's that?
Yeah. I'll just add a couple more pieces. You know, there are super majority voting bans in that request from DCR, which would block, investors or non-equity licensees or partners from taking control of the company from just voting rights. There was also, when you put these 14-day deadlines on DCR in the motion initially, right, there was really no safeguards to say that what if DCR did everything that they were supposed to do in that 14 days, and then the applicant themselves did not? Well, at that time, DCR would have to make a decision to actually abandon or approve this application. So if you had not did everything in that 14-day time frame, then you're likely to get abandoned. And so there was some protections that was put in there that the motion they came at the last minute, and that's where you'll see transmittal amendments on the council file right now, where they added a couple things, because we were saying that the social equity review is at the back of the process. It's after you've submitted for temporary approval. You've already got pre-approval, you've submitted for temporary approval, and it's at the back of the temporary approval. Well, at this time, you've did expenditures on the build out. You've started to build out this business. So that can create litigation if we haven't really found out yet that there's a compliant contract between the social equity partner and the non-social equity partner. So it should happen earlier in the process to mitigate and stop so much litigation, because we're starting to see litigation arise from folks not having compliant agreements, never looking to do that, right? And so there's other things, but yeah, go ahead, Luis.
Oh, no, I don't mean to, I'm sorry. I just want to kind of get a couple of people acclimated to what's going on, because you guys are speaking the truth. So those of you guys that are already in the process know what's going on. But for those of you guys that aren't aware, just to sum it up, 30 seconds here is really just it's what we call in Spanish, it's like a telenovela. It's a teledrama going on, because we really have to, the city and the DCR both are trying to do good. We commend them for their recent efforts to allow us to first and foremost have this opportunity right into the social equity cannabis industry through social equity. However, as we know, there's been a flawed process since day one. And recently the city council in September took action, said, you know what, whatever reason, we're gonna ask the DCR to give us a set of requirements, a set of timelines, and some really straight deliverables. As a response, on October 29th, the DCR went ahead and said, here's a report saying why we don't think that's best. And potentially these are some of the issues that may arise, including, which many have said, unintended consequences that may harm the social equity program, not fix it. In response, that was again given to the PLUM, which is the planning committee. These are the chairs, and they basically, this is the all language through the council motion and files. You guys can all access them, but through there, they approved the motion and basically approved only one of the 9 recommendations DCR said to change. That did not sit well, I believe, with some and most, I mean, for obvious reasons. So without getting too much into the weeds, you guys have access to all this in DCR's files and websites. They basically went ahead and approved the motion with only one of those recommendations to go ahead and move forward through this whole political, hierarchy. Next, today, in just a few minutes or 30 minutes, we'll have the next commission meeting, because at the last commission meeting, the DCR commission basically said that they want to recommend to discuss this. And they would have to, I'm sorry if I'm not saying it right, but basically in order for them to motion or have a weigh-in on whether they're going to support the DCR or the city council, they have to put that on agenda. So at the last special meeting last Wednesday, they decided to add that to today's agenda, which will be—
Luis, can I add to that?
And yes, please, I'll stop there. And then if Madison and then lastly Kika or Alfred want to wrap it up, and then we'll move on to the last part. Gladly have you guys chime in.
Thank you. Yes. So last week's commission, the commissioners were in favor of the 9 recommendations Cat Packer made, and that was really after, we many of us got on the mic at the public comment in support of it, one after another, just advocating for the motion to be amended to include the new recommendations. And so for the first time that we've seen, the commission scheduled another meeting to take a vote on an official vote to send recommendations to the city council in support of the recommendations. And so that's what's going to take place today. They're going to vote affirmatively to support CAT's recommendations and recommend to the city council that they incorporate that in this motion. And Kika, I see you're in the room. Want to add something?
Chime in, please. Let me unmute you, if you don't mind.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Madison and Quest, for that great summary. Thanks, Luis, for creating this platform. And I just wanted to speak. I know this is a webinar for how to get into the cannabis business. And I think this is a great intro into real life and real time civic engagement, because all of you entrepreneurs will find out, as I did, a serial entrepreneur, that in this industry, you must be engaged in the political process, especially if you're coming in as social equity. You must be engaged in the political process in order to ensure that we actually have a fair run at getting the licenses and then being successful. And so I ask you all to practice this in theory. As you've heard, do some research on your own. I'll put a link in the chat that puts our position and just does a summary of the 37 pages that Quest and Madison did. But also today at 2 o'clock, as Luis said, we need folks to call in. Our public comments matter. At the last Plum meeting, we had enough of those council members that said, hold on, we're hearing this consequences a little too much. What is this about? Let's slow down. And so our voices matter. And I would just like to invite everybody to be a part of the political process, get your feet wet, because you do have to get comfortable when they say speak. And so we've made it easy. We have talking points. If you don't do nothing else, you can just read the script. But you guys know enough how important this is that you can also lend your own personal antidote in your 2-minute time period. But if nothing else, we do ask that you participate get on these calls and leave public comment. And as much as we can help, we'll throw tidbits and notes and clip notes for everybody to bite off of. But I would ask is whoever can please call into that commission meeting and be engaged. Thanks again, Luis, for spreading great information.
Thank you, Kika, and congrats on your new store. You are really appreciate you guys. I know you didn't ask for it, but can you throw a plug, please? Where are you and how can we find you?
Oh yeah, I can throw a plug. Everybody come down. We are the first Black woman-owned and operated dispensary to open up on Crenshaw Boulevard.
There you go.
In my hood, right close to Leimert Park, Gorilla RX Wellness Co. We have over 2,000 SKUs, the largest inventory of Black-owned and social equity brands. So we just want y'all to come and support because it's more than just supporting Kika. We're supporting the community and about all of us thriving. So thanks, Luis, for the shout out.
And thank you, as you said, you've supported others in this industry and through their venture. So it's only fitting we all support each other. I know we have a few raised hands, but we do want to get the program going. I don't know if Alfred, you had a few words or anyone from SAOA. If anyone wasn't on the agenda, I apologize if we get to the end, and we can definitely take more comments or questions.
I just want to thank you, Luis. I'm gonna yield all my time. I know there's a lot of energy, so if there's any questions, I want to yield to see if anybody has feedback.
Great. Okay, cool. So let's, I know we have a few things here going on, so we're gonna go ahead and get going to the next step. Jamani, if you don't mind, actually, right before I get started, wow, I almost forgot a big part here. We have, this first and foremost is everyone, as mentioned, we cannot do this alone. We are a nonprofit organization, Social Equity LA. We've come a long way in the last few years, and we have now armed ourselves with some of the best in the industry to support us in an advisory role and continue to do the great work and be able to scale the work and really reach more people. So want to just give a shout out to all our great board members and advocates, really providing strategic direction and lending their expertise. So we have Mariah Dodson, who is Cannabis CEO, a newly licensed cannabis delivery here in Los Angeles. So you can look at their bio. We also have Mariah. We have Antonio Hanivar. I hope I said that right. And I'm Latino, so I apologize. And that's from WebJoint. Does some great job and has been an advocate from day one in helping us. Jamani, who's one of the social equity applicants from phase 3, round 1, is currently a cultivator doing that good stuff for the steezies. We have Biko, Tamika Drew. Thank you so much for your work in general and supporting us with our last few events, and look forward to learning more about you and your brand through your ventures. And Darius Kemp as well. So he's a longtime advocate in the game and has been supporting us since the beginning. So I appreciate him and what they're doing there. With that, go ahead and get started with our program. So Jamani, can you unmute yourself? Are you available there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you can see me too.
Yes, sir. We can see.
All right, fantastic.
Ultimately, Jamani will just go. I'll just maybe have 3 questions, and you can kind of hit them, and then we'll go on to the next applicant and licensee we want to introduce you to. So, Jamani, for those of you that don't know, and maybe I have about 2 or 3, about 2 minutes or so per question, is what is your cannabis story? How did you end up in that nice room and with those nice plants behind you here in the bio?
Okay, how do I break that? Because that's like a 20-minute story. So I'm gonna
do a 2-part. First is how did you qualify as an applicant, and then where where are you at now? And then we can get down further with the other questions.
Yes, I have a prior cannabis conviction, possession. Got that in about 2005. What's really funny about that is that I was about to start law school and I had no criminal record before I started law school. But like, this is literally like a week before I start law school, and I start law school with a criminal record, you know. But I have a smile on my face about that now because in 2005, I didn't realize that that would help to qualify me for this program. Based on that, based on my income level, I was able to qualify for the program. I put my name out there and applied for it. Yeah, it was a bumpy road during that application process, getting all that information together because a lot of courts have independently sort of expunged or limited the information about those sort of arrests and convictions based on, you know, cannabis being legal in California now. So that being said, like, you know, I had to go jump through a whole bunch of hoops to get all the proper paperwork. But once I submitted all my paperwork and got that in, you know, went through the process, and yeah, there was some controversy, but, you know, we endured and we persevered, and here we are today.
Great.
So yeah, did that answer the question? I hope it did. I think it did.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, I know you've personally, so I appreciate it, and I know your venture, but when you first were introduced and found out about social equity, how were you able to even apply in that September? And well, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, through the grace of God, I met you. I was on forums like this, going to events like this. I knew that I qualified, but I didn't know, like, you know, I can't afford to you know, produce a dispensary on my own and you know, stock the shelves on my own. So I was a little hesitant to apply, but then I found out about sort of a matchmaking process between different investors and different social equity applicants. And so when I learned about this program, I took advantage of it. I signed up for it, interviewed, you know, with the investor. There was a strong relationship that developed right from the outset, and it's continued. You know, when I first met the people from Stizzy, you know, they treated me well, and you know, they've indicated that this social equity thing is important to them. So you know, my job is to see through it that is true, and that's the mission.
Well, on that note, you know, what are some advice you can give to people? Because you know, you found, you know, your partnership and it didn't come easy. It's definitely difficult, and there are things to look out for. So maybe what are the top 3 things to look out for as someone is either an applicant or in your phase?
Absolutely. You're going to get a lot of documents from people that they're just going to hope that you sign. And, you know, you have to make sure that you have a good representation, an advisor, attorney, accountant, all those kind of things. You need to make sure that you've got a team, a strong team behind you, because people will try to take advantage of you, you know, straight up. That being said, protect yourself, you know, and don't take it personally either. You know, this is business, and, you know, people will try to get over as much as they can. And, you know, as long as you, you know, are about that life, as far as, you know, being on the up and up about everything, and make sure that you speak up about the things that you want, you will get those things too. You know, so just like Kika said, shout out to Kika. Congratulations, Kika. Shout out to Madison and all the other folks. But yeah, you know, it's very important to stay engaged. It's very important to stay into everything that you're doing. So yeah, just keep that in mind. People will, you know, shoot you documents and they hope that you just, you know, sign them and sign away. But you've got to make sure to cross your T's and dot your I's. Absolutely.
I love that, man. That's beautiful. So with that, I mean, the last question, probably most important, is it sativa, indica, or hybrid?
I'm a hybrid guy for me because, well, quite frankly, I mean, I'll give you a grower's perspective. There's really very little on the market that's like pure indica or pure sativa. You rarely ever find that stuff. Everything is hybrid. It's really all about regardless of the strain, how does it look? How does it feel? Is it frosty? Does it look like it was grown well? Anything that you consume in your body has to come from love, and you feel it. And if it's grown with love, you will see it in the plant. You feel me? And if you treat it, you know, if when you go to the store, you look for those fresh vegetables, they look like they're shining and they're ripe and they're sweet. It's the same thing with cannabis, you know. The strain depends on the grower. It depends on the nutrients. It depends on the environment. You know, you can have two different clones, but if you grow them in different places, they'll be totally different. So, you know, whenever you're evaluating your cannabis, you know, make sure to check for all those things that you like to check for, and just make sure that it looks good, and then try it out, you know, because it's all about how it makes you feel. So that's just the most important thing. But so yeah, indica sativa hybrid, whatever, is a good weed. That's the biggest question.
Well, thank you for your time. I always love talking to you, and a cultivator. I always feel like I'm reminded of the plant and medicine and all the great things. So thank you for that.
Much respect to everybody. Thank you. And if you have any questions, you can put them on the chat. I'll do my best to answer them as best as I can.
Great. So appreciate you. Next, we're gonna speak to Mariah Dodson of CCANA, and a veteran and social impact warrior, and as well as one of our advisory board members, about her experience. So Mariah, can you unmute yourself and make sure you're there?
Hello.
Great. Hi, Mariah. So thank you for joining us, your time.
Hey, everyone. I see a lot of beautiful, familiar faces out there. Just want to first start by saying, you know, congrats to everyone on the success, and, you know, to everyone continuing to push. Like, I feel you. Support is with you, and super excited to get into today. Thank
you. On that note, why don't you just, can you please let us know, A, how'd you qualify, and then B, how you, what you're doing now, I guess, briefly in 2-3 minutes.
Awesome. So yes, qualified by growing up in the city of LA. You know, as soon as I heard about the Los Angeles Social Equity Program, it really gave that initiative to want to get more involved in the city government, learning about, you know, the new regulations coming out, how I myself could get involved, but also how I could get more of my people involved, more of my family involved as well. So jumped right in, and haven't missed a commission meeting since, which is a little easier because they cancel half of them. But, you know, just still pushing with that. And right now, after about 4 years of wins and losses, you know, just really grateful that we were able to get our delivery license. You know, the moment that they opened it up, it was go time. So excited about this newest venture with CCANA, which we are a socially driven cannabis delivery service, and, you know, really just hoping to be able to collaborate and work with other beautiful social equity warriors in the space.
Thank you for that. On that note, what are those things that maybe you can recommend, having been through the process and the battle scars and all that, for other applicants looking to get into the game?
You know, Kika hit on it earlier, just like the full-time commitment to follow up with the policies, like literally watching the policies and being involved in every meeting, because that's where the decisions are made, right? And that's how you can figure out what pivots you need to make in your business. So like showing up at those meetings is very, very important. And, you know, Kika hit on it, and Ignite put the notes in the chat. Like, it's absolutely critically important that, you know, we do speak, and I appreciate you guys for saying that. It's definitely something to take on, that not only do we need to show up, but we need to speak. So showing up to those meetings, taking notes on those meetings, debriefing on those meetings that happen, because the policies are changing every single day. They hit us with a 14-day notice, in which a lot of people, our applications were abandoned. So things like that, it's very rigid out here. So you have to be, and, you know, the Army, you know, is ready for war. You have to be ready for war, and also ready to collaborate and ready to, you know, come together with allies as well, because everyone on this call is an ally. You know, we are working together to try to move forth this system, in which has just caused so much harm to our families, so much harm to our people. So we are absolutely allies. And like, I think it's just so important that we continue to think that, and we are at war with, bigger corporations. And we honestly, unfortunately, we're at war with the government as well. So, just make sure that you are following the policies. That would be the biggest feedback. Stay on it every meeting.
Well, I appreciate your military background and the perspectives, and also understanding that we need allies, and all of us, and here we are allies, right? I think that when any industry comes on board into main, U.S. or any market, we're all together, and especially us small businesses, all entrepreneurs, minorities, and really, working against the corporate conglomerates. Hopefully we get to the point where we can start, having a worry about those things. But right now, there's strength in working together. So rather than ask what are some of the challenges that you face, why don't you discuss, because it sounds like you do have solutions. So what are potential 2 or 3 solutions that you or others can do as they enter the cannabis industry to make sure, they're representing the social equity program and what it's intended to do?
For sure. Jemani hit on a couple of things. For sure, making sure that you have a lawyer and an accountant to track everything. Aside from that, I definitely think it's important to, show your story and make sure that there is a track record so that people getting involved, investors, other applicants, you're literally documenting your story as it goes, building a personal brand in this new capitalistic world. Like, it's actually going to matter. It may not be as relevant now, your personal brand or your own journey, but as we continue to grow, I think it's going to be mission critical. So if you are thinking of getting involved, begin to network, begin to market yourself, begin to take little journal notes here and there. I just think that's going to become very, very important in the upcoming years, as well as be a constant student. Be a constant student in everywhere that you can go to absorb knowledge about either the cannabis industry, operations, logistics, regulation. Be in those rooms and be willing to be a sponge so that you can learn what you need to do to be able to operate your business that will be.
Did something happen? I think you're muted, Mariah.
Oh, can you hear me now?
There you go.
The last thing would be just to stay grounded along the journey. Make sure that you find things that continue to bring you balance, bring you joy, because the entrepreneurial journey is not for the faint of heart, and it is treacherous out here. So finding things that keep you balanced is mission critical as well.
Thank you for that. I kind of know maybe the answer, but let me ask you like this: indica, sativa hybrid, or CBD?
I believe in the beautiful combination between a nice hybrid flower strain, gorgeous, and CBD. Those two work just so gorgeous together. If you want to be productive, if you want to just kind of float, then just hybrid by itself.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, we have our next leader here, and social equity applicant and license, or I can say brand owner of Pico, Tamika Drew. If you don't mind unmuting yourself, please, and joining the conversation. And thank you once again, Mariah.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So excited to be here.
Okay, thank you, Tamika. And like I said, once again, appreciate your support this last year, and everything in context to everything, right, that I know you have going on. So I appreciate it. Can you let the audience know here a little bit about how you qualified and what you're currently doing in the cannabis industry, and maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, I will say I qualified as a social equity applicant because I was living in beautiful Leimert Park, raised my kids there. I have 4 kids for 13 years. So I was able to qualify that way, and I was a leader in the nonprofit space for quite some time and was low income due to that. So but I will say that the thing that made me able to be a phase 3 round 1 applicant was the work of a lot of the folks on this call, the work of the Social Equity Owners and Workers Association, because Ms. Tamika Drew was number 230 something on that list. And so I barely got through when the changes were made to the ordinance to really increase the amount of people that would be able to participate in the program. And I just really can't express enough appreciation and really just love to be able to talk about that as something that really showed the power of the people on the ground to be able to really just change everything for 100 of us. And if we can continue to stay strong and use our voices and stay connected as a community, we can continue to do this throughout the country. You know, the regulators might make some mistakes and they might not even realize they're making mistakes because we're learning things every day about these programs. And so the more that we can say, hey, this is what's happening, these are the changes that we need to make and stand together and do that, the more that we can win. So I really wanted to be able to lift that work up and say, you know, that is actually why I'm able to stand here as a retail licensee, is the work of actual human beings on the ground, changing that regulatory framework.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, I always feel we always are standing on the shoulders of those that came before us as an advocate. So definitely growing and continuing that cycle. Before we get into maybe some pointers there, can you give us a little bit more about your experience getting into this industry? You know, not to state the obvious, but you know, as to me, as a Kika yourself, first African American women here in Los Angeles, biggest marketplace to have a license and be there with the big dogs, as they say, right? So how is that experience, and what are things that we all should, you know, man, woman, LGBTQ, anybody have to worry about when they're in those rooms, or to be able to get to the point that the rooms you've been in, that I know you've been in?
Well, I will say, you know, I came into cannabis as a medical patient, and I first came to LA going to law school, and I had to withdraw because I was so sick. And I started going to my medical dispensary, and they were kind of like, you can't afford to buy the weed you need to get better, so why don't you let us hire you? And I began to advocate for medical patients, you know, advocating for doctors to give recommendations to patients, starting to let patients know where they can go to get their medicine. But, you know, I really, from a very early time when we saw legalization was going to happen, I was active in the legacy industry. I was active as a medical cannabis collective, someone who ran a medical cannabis collective and was making medicine for patients. And that was the way that I qualified as a phase 2 licensee in Los Angeles. So I held cultivation license and I hold a manufacturing license currently, which is how we manufacture my brand Bico. And I really found early on that one of the things I started to hear was kind of like, there are social equity applicants and owners, and then there are kind of corporate people and more real industry people. And that was like right off the bat. And I saw that as a huge problem. And I said to myself, you know, I need to make sure that I am one of these social equity applicants, but I'm also one of these industry corporate people, so that, you know, I'm able to kind of be in those rooms helping guide and build what I feel corporations should be doing in order to help support us in these programs as well. So in my journey, a big part of what I've been doing is not letting people tell me that there are limits to what I'm allowed to do as a Black woman in the space. You know, we see a lot of white men in the space. They sit on boards, they have brands, they own retail locations, they are a part of many different corporations, and everybody applauds them for their new consultancy that they've started. But then when women talk about having multiple projects, people will say very quickly, can you really handle that? Should you really maybe choose one lane? And we absolutely should not be choosing one lane right now. We need to be choosing all the lanes and figuring out how those lanes work together to really be able to build the wealth that we need to dump back into our communities. So that's really been something that I've been focusing on personally. And I think there's just so many different ways for us to approach this industry and our licenses and our businesses. And so just don't let anybody tell you there is one way. You know, take pages from everybody's book that sound interesting and be creative, because this is such a new world and a nascent state that we can really kind of make it into anything we need it to be.
Wow, amazing. I mean, I think Zoom needs to add a mic drop reaction. I couldn't find it. We might just end on that note.
I appreciate you.
So, you know, definitely, maybe we can end on a few points of locking, you know, keep it going. You know, top 3 points that we should look out for, those of us in the coming in. And as you said, I mean, if you've already hit some really powerful things. So maybe a more, you know, if you want to kind of continue that thought, or just kind of summarize the top 3 things people need to look out for.
Well, I'll say in general, you know, one of the things that people definitely need to look out for, and people have been covering this, is just, you know, really like limiting your value, really trying to get you to rush into things or sign things that don't make sense, or maybe that you don't understand. And I think that now more than ever, especially as we're waiting to see how things might change right this moment for the phase 3 round 1 applicants like myself, that haven't kind of figured it all out yet and are still talking to partners and looking at properties and figuring out how things are going to go. You know, make sure that you understand that no matter what, even though it feels like a pressure cooker that we're in right now, we still have a lot of options, and we're still the ones with the asset. You know, we don't need to be forced and pushed and bullied into something that doesn't make sense, or that makes us feel worried. This is definitely the time to kind of sit back, make sure that you're with the people that have the right values, and be willing to bend and change as we see that we're going to be allowed to do some things. Like, I know some people are looking at situations in their community plan area that if in 3 weeks they'll be able to change to a different community plan area, that might be something that would really benefit them and their business, and they would be able to work with maybe even different partners if that were to happen. So just being aware of the way that these changes that are coming could affect your current talks or your current possibilities.
That's great. I mean, I think the flexibility of and being able to be you know, aware of the policies and the opportunities and being ready, you know, is all part of that, is all you guys had said. So wow, thank you so much for sharing all of your thoughts. I would ask the same question. Do you partake, as they say? And if so, is it THC, indica, or hybrid?
I love that I can get away with seeming like I may not partake. I do partake every day, and all of them. I claim them all. I have all the Sativa, the indica, the hybrid, the CBD, all in my locked shelves. So I very much appreciate the beauty of this plant, and I literally would not be standing here before anyone right now without it, and its many iterations. So I will check with that.
Okay, well, thank you. And I think, like everybody said on that last note, is just there's a strain, there's something for all of us. It's a beautiful plant, it's a beautiful medicine. And what I tell a lot of people too is, it's actually now, people had a lot of bad experiences originally, but that's because it wasn't tested, it wasn't you know, dosed. Now you can read it, now you know what's for what. So I don't want to encourage, but definitely people should rediscover cannabis. The one thing I would say before we just wrap it up and have some last points before this commission meeting starts is, you know, we are CEOs, we are owners, we are people that belong at the table. And the more we believe that and say that, it, you know, it will manifest. So continue to believe in yourself, believing in ourselves. We have a team and a village behind you. So we want to continue that. We have partners like SEOA and others doing some great policy work. So we want to make sure we lean on them and connect the dots. Ultimately, we want to be a network as Social Equity LA to bring everybody together. Like Tamika said, we are from who we are as people, but just because our people haven't been at the table don't mean we can't put on a nice suit and be there and talk their language, because ultimately we do belong there, and this is an industry and a program that was created for us. On that note, just quickly, I'll bring up this document. Law of the dry stuff is what I do. It's really just making sure that, hey, regardless of what you're doing, you need to make sure your business is compliant. So many people are going to get a business, and no matter what industry you're in, it's hard. It's cutthroat, especially in cannabis. So we want to make sure that you guys are at least aware of the 10 simple steps. And we said all these are documents that are available, and we'll share in the link in the chat as well. But as a quick 3-4 points, and then we'll wrap it up and continue doing this monthly as well. So entity type, just making sure that you know whether you want to do LLC, Corp, C Corp, S Corp. There's a lot of different ramifications, as everybody's been saying, whether you plan to sell, whether you plan to run it, all of these things will matter. Make sure you register your state, make sure you register everything, your entity, the city, your statement of information, your seller's permit, your fictitious business name. These are all things that will come up and hold up your address. And can I get an amen to anybody that's been through this process? So, you don't want to have those things not valid. Every city has, county has a DBA, so you definitely want to register for that in your city so that you're able to own that. And then you want to register at the state level. You want to make sure, as I mentioned, there's other licenses such as a fire permit, a city permit, an LAPD alarm permit, and others depending on the license you may need. Other regulatory bodies that you'll need to work with, especially CDTFA, taxes and more taxes, and quarterly taxes and excise taxes, and then EDD as well. So once you start getting into employment taxes. Once you get the city, you still got to make sure you're working with the state, as we said, and depending on your license, such as right now, for example, they're requiring, or they're going to start requiring CEQA analysis or more work around that as people transition from temporary to annual. So that is a whole other body we'll all need to work with. Lastly, employer responsibilities, tax information, as I mentioned, and I guess ongoing business registration and requirements, said filings that need to happen, taxes, and protect yourselves with trademarks. We can register trademarks, so I know there are some people that aren't aware of that. Our service marks as cannabis brands federally through the U.S. Trademark Association and or through the states. With that, I know we have a commission meeting, so I apologize to cut it short, but please, feel free to continue following us, and we'll continue the conversation. If you guys want to tune into the commission meeting, it's at the DCR website. It's under commission meetings and should be going in a few minutes. And as Kika, Tamika, and others have said, Alfred, please weigh in with your voice.
All right, possible we could put the link to the commission meeting in the chat just for anyone who wants to go directly there from this. Boom, thank you. Okay, okay, okay. You're on mute, Luis.
I said, thank you all. I appreciate your time. We'll wrap it up with that. I've put the link in the chat, and well, you guys have a great day. For those of you guys that are still on, if you have a question, I know there's a few hands. I don't mind sticking around. I will put this in the chat if I can figure this out.
Yeah, Luis.
George, I know you have a question. Please, I apologize. Yes, you're the most patient man I probably met because your hand has been up the whole meeting.
No problem. I was listening to you guys. Thank you for everything. Yeah, my question is, so the email said that this is for new cannabis, starting a new cannabis business.
Yes, sir.
and it was talking about how to get verified for the social equity program. Is there like gonna be a new verification window, or I don't get it? How is it gonna?
Yes, that's a
How,
great question. And for everyone, I apologize. I just sent the link on the chat if you haven't gotten it. So what the city decided to do is at the time end the program verification early in 2019 or 2019. And
yeah.
there's about 1,600 people, as you're aware. They said at the time they were going to open it. However, they did not say when, but they will open it for either, I believe recently they said, looking more towards spring of next year. They have changed the initial requirements. I'll share a link and maybe share some more information with you as far as the details, but to kind of keep it general. In the fall, in the hopefully beginning of next year, the middle of next year, they'll reopen the verification phase. They changed the verification requirements, for example, from zip code to actual being living in a police precinct, as well as define certain rules regarding income limitations and additional household members and a few other things as I believe, yes, you get vetted to this time around. So without, saying things I don't want to say that I'm aware of or know the details, there is going to be information coming forth, but the timeline hasn't been set.
Okay, but if we're verified, do we need to verify again, or?
If you're verified and you're on the list, and then congratulations, and you're definitely eligible for those uses. And feel free to reach out to us or others if you'd like more information. Get you started down.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Demetrius?
Hey, Luis, I just wanted to say thank you and to everybody that spoke. It's really inspiring to hear, like this thing's happening, right? Like it's been a little messy. You stay in it, you stay throttled, you participate, engage, comment, listen, ask questions. Like it happens. I am new to this call, so I'm grateful to have come into this fold. I thank you guys for coordinating this opportunity to coalesce and share resources. So I dropped my email in the chat. Tier 1, phase 1 qualified. I'm out here like all of us, just trying to figure out what the next step is. I know this next meeting is coming up at 2:00, but I just want to thank you guys and look forward to the next opportunity to connect.
Thank you. Appreciate you. And appreciate everybody once again for all their time and energy, and like they're building this out, and we'll continue to do this monthly, and we have a whole calendar of events next year to get everyone involved and continue reaching out to you, and appreciate it, everybody. So with that, have a great day, and I guess we'll hear what the commission has to say.
Thank you.